Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you've chosen this YouTube channel, this Sabbath, this sanctuary in time. We know that you have so many options on Sunday morning, and that you choose to be here is something that we celebrate. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors and anyone who may be watching our service online for the first time. We now invite everyone to greet each other in any way that you possibly can. And now Reverend Rose has a few announcements.
We have one announcement today from our board president, Phil Hannon.
Good morning. You may have seen sidewalks and curbs outside marked with orange paint. They're scheduled to be replaced the week after Thanksgiving. This is the first step towards improving the north parking lot, which is the first of many long-term maintenance improvements tasks for our facilities that we hope to complete over the next 3 to 5 years. We are less than 2 weeks away from the end of the Paving Our Way capital campaign. So far, we have received over $680,000 in pledges towards our $980,000 goal. This is based on generous pledges from less than 1/3 of our congregation. That number of pledges for this campaign concerns me. These church facilities belong to all of us. They are our responsibility and part of our legacy for the future of Unitarian Universalism in this community. We should be proud of that ownership and that legacy. I encourage those who have not pledged yet to contribute to that legacy by pledging to the campaign. To emphasize the importance of all of you being part of that legacy, at whatever level you can contribute, one of our members will increase their pledge by $50 for each of the next 40 pledges received, up to an extra $2,000. Please let me know after the service if you have any questions about the campaign or how to make a pledge. Thanks.
Come, let us worship. Please rise as you are willing and able for our opening hymn, number 389, Gathered Here.
As Andre comes forward to light our chalice, we invite you to join us as we recite our covenant. Let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Good morning. At this time, I invite all the children to come up here and join me. Hi, Arjun. Welcome. Good to see you. All right. I brought something with me today that I want to share with you. Don't eat it. All right, who can tell me what is in the cup? Yes, Camden. It is dirt. Yes, it is soil. Good job. All right, I want you to smell the soil. I want you to feel it between your fingers. Does anyone know what soil is made up of? Dirt, yes. Does anyone know what dirt is made up of? Atoms. Wow, we're getting real molecular already. Yes, Camden. What? Worm poop. Yes, there's definitely some poop in there. Yes. Add a lie. Worms is in dirt. Yes. So far, my list has not been mentioned at all, but this is great. Yes. One more. Andre, what do you got? Broken down stuff. Yes, for sure. So soil is made up of poop and worms, and it's also made up of air, rocks, minerals, water, decomposers like bacteria and fungi and worms. But mostly, dirt is made up of the remains of dead plant and animals. I was reflecting on soil this week, and it occurred to me that the creation of soil is the result of some harsh conditions and harmful behaviors. The rocks and minerals are broken down into small pieces by powerful winds and rains, from floods and hurricanes and tornadoes. And plants and animals are harmed by those same things, floods and fire, and by other animals. And when they die, their bodies decompose and become part of the soil. Maybe you've caused another living thing harm before. I know I pulled leaves off of trees.
Because once I put like a tomato in my sandbox, and I waited 2 days, and then I dug it up, and it was just sand.
Nice. All right. So Camden, he knows about the decomposition process. So some of these harmful behaviors I've also done before. Like I said, pulling leaves off of trees, swatting away flies, stepping on insects and spiders, and all those things, even the tomatoes we pull off, end up in the soil. But right now, there are things in the soil in front of you that you can't see, that are working really hard to repair the harm that took place. We have microscopic organisms, we don't have any worms in there, but that are breaking down those rocks and plant animal parts and releasing the nutrients and materials needed to create new living things. We know that new life grows out of the soil. Harm is part of life. All people cause harm. I know I have behaved poorly in the past to the people in my life that I love. I've said hurtful things, and I've made harmful decisions that caused them to experience harm. Raise your hand if you've ever said something that was hurtful to someone else. Yeah, we all have. And was it always so easy to say sorry? Sometimes it's not always. Sometimes when we hurt someone, it's hard to share our feelings and repair that relationship. I know that's true for me too. That's because repair work is hard work. But just like the soil, repair work is some of our most important work. Because like soil, repairing our relationships with the earth and each other allows new growth in us. We become better versions of ourselves. Repair work is so important because in repair work, just like in the soil, new life is possible. All right, let's put our soil back up on the table, and then you can walk with me to your classrooms.
We come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard. I invite you to reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you, reminding them and yourself that we are here together, gathered in peace and authenticity and intention. We also come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a rare joy or a profound sorrow, I invite you to come forward and light a candle now.
So my name is Twyla Preston, and on Friday, my son's father took a very nasty fall at the capital of Nebraska. He's in intensive care, not always conscious, and I just really feel for my son, and me some.
My joy is I'm really thankful. My husband and I just went on our honeymoon, and it was a beautiful trip, and I'm just so thankful that we had the privilege of being able to do that. So.
Hi, I'm Greg Hack. This is a candle of thanks. Any of you who were here last week when I got to preach, or any of you out in TV land who watched it on Zoom, but also a little bit of sorrow and correction. I think I made a mistake. The Unitarian in me says, I once thought I made a mistake, but I was wrong. But there is great controversy about whether Francis David was actually the source of the "we need not think alike to love alike" quote. And it may be better attributed to our good Methodist brother, John Wesley. So there's debate, and there's been committees, and does that sound familiar? At any rate, I won't be repeating that one until I do further research.
Hello, I'm Brian Nelson, longtime member of SMUUCh, and this is a candle of recognition, joy that our church, SMUUCh, has been recognized as Pitch's 2023 runner-up church of Best Place to Worship behind Church of the Resurrection. We're one of 4 other runner-ups for 2023.
Wow.
My name is Ed Dolan, and I am lighting a candle of sorrow and joy for my wife, Helen, who passed 2 years ago after blessing me with 60 years of a wonderful time. May she rest in peace.
Reverend Rose is helping me light a candle for of joy. No, really, of sorrow. I'm sorry. Last week, Gabby Garone announced the passing of her dear mother, and today I am expressing sorrow for Gabby. Gabby is a dear friend. And really, I knew her mother and loved her for 10 years. And in fact, 3 days before she died, I was sitting with her in the auditorium listening to Gabby's concert with the chorale Spectrum. And I couldn't believe it after she died so suddenly. And Gabby was not able to be there for her mother. She was at work, so that doubled Gabby's grief. Gabby is in severe grief. And I just wish that every one of you, if she gets back to church, if you haven't expressed your feelings for her, your support for her, please do. Thank you.
My name is Bonnie Till, and I would like all of us to share in joy. My husband has memory issues, and he lately has been saying how much he'd love to have a dog, which we kind of decided we wouldn't do, but I'm going to send it out to you. If anybody knows of a sweet little couch potato dog that is, under 20 pounds, let me know, okay? Or maybe let Reverend Rose know and she can contact me. It's got to be sweet, lovely, housebroken, maybe 5 years old. And, we love dogs, so we'll take good care of it.
And now we have one final very special joy. I'll invite you two to come over here. Sarah, you stand here. Hawthorne, you stand here. Let us together on this Sunday morning liberate ourselves from the tyranny of cynicism and complicity which threatens to spoil our hope and steal our joy, and for one moment celebrate these two souls who, under the weight of empire, are buoyed by their love, making not just a home together, but a beautiful child who they are raising up to be a tough, smart, and loved little girl. Today, we gather so briefly to celebrate with Hawthorne Ignis Noctis and Sarah Juniper Crane as they wed right here, right now. Hawthorne, do you dedicate yourself to Sarah now and then even to eternity?
Yes.
Sarah, do you dedicate yourself to Hawthorne now and then even to eternity?
I do.
You may kiss. I now pronounce you married. Let us join in blessing them by saying with me, Sarah and Hawthorne, we celebrate you. May your days be long and your love grow bigger than you could ever imagine. You may be seated. Let us come more fully into this space, putting your feet flat on the floor, taking a deep breath, closing your eyes if you feel comfortable, and relaxing into your chair, enjoying the happy, joyous feeling of seeing two people's lives unite. I invite you to wiggle your jaw, melt into your seat a little. Let the hustle and bustle of getting here melt away and come into a space of humility and gratitude in the face of the infinite. Today we will do a meditation on love. For our hearts, our love will grow more than we ever could imagine. I invite you to draw your attention to your heart space on your chest and just take a second to notice. How is your body? Do you feel tight? Does your heart feel open? Letting the corners of your lips turn up. And now, because our service is about repair, I invite us to enter into a loving kindness meditation. And during this meditation, I'm going to invite you to imagine someone who has harmed you and someone whom you have harmed. And I invite you to allow yourself space to choose people who you feel your heart can handle in this moment. So first, I'll invite you to envision the face of someone who has harmed you. And now let their face float away. Put your hand over your own heart and repeat after me. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from harm. May I be free. And now I invite you to envision the face of someone that you know you have harmed. Taking a moment to sit in this space. Again, I invite you to let the corner of your lips turn up in knowledge that your heart is courageous and big enough to do repair work. And now, envisioning their face, please repeat after me. May you be free from suffering. May you be free from harm. May you be free. And now placing your hands face up in your lap, I invite you to settle into your own vision of the world in which we as a people grow in our love, that we may simply make better mistakes. One last time, repeat after me. May we be free from suffering. May we be free from harm. May we be free. May we as a globe find a way to repair, knowing that what is lost has been destroyed. May we enter into new relationship, new paths to create something different and knit up. May we envision a future where we are not perfect, but better. Blessed be, and amen. Please remain seated for our meditative hymn, From You I Receive. The last 2 Sundays, we've been discussing our universalism. We've been rejoicing in the very good news that there is a love that is big enough for each of us, no matter what. That we can have faith in the goodness and wholeness in our lives. We have been celebrating the freedom that many of us feel from religious harm, relaxing into the knowledge that our souls are not damned to hell, that we did not come from evil, and that what we are supposed to do is to let those soft animals of our bodies love what they love, and that that is good and right and sits well with our souls. But I do have some questions. I want to pull apart this universalism and poke it and see what it really means. Because when we get down to it, it's nice that everyone gets to go to heaven if we believed in heaven. But what about the ways that people harm each other? This weekend, I went to my annual scholarly conference on the confluence of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, as I do each year, to meet with my colleagues to discuss a topic. And this year, our topic was repair. Reparations, harm, accountability, justice, and the process by which we do that knitting up. We read the UUA Common Read by Daniel Ruttenberg, along with 7 other books, which breaks down some of the bad habits we have around repair and gives us an alternative framework. This was a very meaningful time for me, as I am struck and stunned by the harm that is done to humans by other humans. Is there a world where we don't hurt each other? We dream of this world. Indeed, our Unitarianism tells us to be better and better, and our Universalism tells us that we are purely loved. But these 2 theological frameworks often leave us without a container to help us understand how to deal with our imperfections. A colleague of mine said, "I don't believe there is a world where we are perfect." That we need to normalize the reality that we aren't and never will be perfect so that we can reduce harm. That perhaps this is what it means to be a people of faith. To know that we are going to hurt each other, and thus lean into how we can repair, not so that we don't ever make mistakes, but so that we make better mistakes next time. Let me tell you a story about a church who is doing repair work, the first of 3. They are undertaking a direct process of reparations as they are able to in this moment. This is the UU Church in Salem, Massachusetts. On a recent youth trip to Boston, the office administrator who does the tours said that she was starting to name and tell the story of the congregation, to include every time she talks about them in her tour, to say that they discovered that they had been involved in the witch trials. That, in fact, they had been part of the accusations that had resulted in people being hung. As part of their process, they had displayed in their huge, beautiful, traditional sanctuary a long, handwritten list of all the names of every single person who died, known to have died in the Salem witch trials. When the tour ends, she said she used to say, "We need to learn our history so we don't repeat it." But now she says, "We need to learn our history so we make better mistakes." Indeed, this wave of reparations is going across the denomination. As some of the patting ourselves on the back wears thin, especially as we diversify and some of our less than perfect past is being unearthed with intention, over the years, the UUA has tried hard to make better mistakes. Our history, which is firmly rooted in white supremacy, has made many mistakes that have dramatically limited the scope of our movement and done damage in the world. In 1968, when the Unitarian Universalist Association, back then called the AUA, promised the Black Affairs Council $1 million, they never fulfilled that commitment. This resulted in many of the Black UU families and leaders being so damaged and disappointed that they left Unitarian Universalism. What would our churches look like today if this harm had not happened? What a huge loss. Just a few years ago, in October of 2019, in an act of reparations, the UUA Board of Trustees voted to give $5.3 million to Black Lives UU, or BLUE, after a presentation and funding request from BLUE's leaders. In considering the decision in a 3-day October board meeting, the board set aside Robert's rules and made this religious act, in which the UU moderator called it a leap of faith, for the money was a gift to BLUE, with no strings attached, a quarter of the annual denominational budget. This was a powerful statement, and it came after 60 years of rebuilding relationships, taking accountability, and listening. Now, I applaud these two examples because these groups are changing the way they do repair. That is, they are resisting the urge to simply ask to be forgiven. Rutenberg, in her book, begins by naming that our society puts so much emphasis on forgiveness as the right and pious act. Indeed, how many times have we been told that we should find forgiveness in our hearts, that everyone deserves forgiveness, that it will be a gift to us to let go of the harm that we carry in our hearts. But this puts the onus of repair back onto the victim, and it completely erases the need for the harm doer to do the work of making things right so that they do better next time. Because when someone is forgiven, it just wipes the harm doer squeaky clean, and the victim feels icky. What if the UUA had simply just asked BLUE to forgive them for their wrongs? BLUE would have felt pressure to say yes, or risk being seen as impious by withholding forgiveness if they refused. When really, it's on the Unitarian Universalist Association to continue to do the work. But now, what is the work of repair? Our book by Daniel Ruttenberg is based on the 12th century Rabbi Maimonides, who wrote an accountability opus, who lays out 5 very simple yet very daunting steps to making repair. They are, first, name and own the harm, or confess. Speak aloud what harm you have committed. 2, start to change. Be able to say, I am now another person and not the person who perpetrated those misdeeds. She says that true repentance happens when you come into that situation again and do something different. And you may say, how can I be sure I'll encounter that same situation? Well, if you haven't done the work, you probably will end up in that same situation. The third step is to provide restitution and accept the consequences, which might also be called making amends or reparations, which may be practical repair. For example, if I stole your cow, I need to get you a new cow. I need to get you all the milk you missed out on and pay for your medical care that you accrued due to your lack of milk vitamins. This repair is the $5.3 million. It's the land back movement, which puts land back into the ownership and stewardship of indigenous people globally. This would mean to accept the consequences of loss of wealth and property of people who currently hold it. But to simply pay someone back for stolen goods is not enough. The heart must also make a change. So the fourth step is to apologize publicly. There are so many examples of bad, half-hearted apologies, slippery, pretend apologies that celebrities and nations make, as Daniel Ruttenberg calls them, perfunctory, narcissistic public statements. A true apology centers the victims, has no excuses, and states clearly what you have done. And lastly, the fifth step is to make better mistakes next time. To be changed by the process. To understand that indeed something precious has been destroyed, and that it can't come back, and that something new can come into being. I wonder, is there harm that you need to repair? Are there reparations that you need to make? Are there ways that you've been harmed and received a laughable apology or no apology? What harms do you carry with you, and what would it or could it mean to you to have someone do this repair work with you? How might your life be knit back up, your faith restored in that world you dream of? And how might you do this for someone else? The holidays are upon us. And boy, as we look around that family dinner table, I hope these steps give you something to think about. Now, I admit this conference has got me thinking about how we, as a congregation, could engage in reparations. Here, on the eve of Thanksgiving, at Shawnee Mission, Unitarian Universalist Church. Something I've heard so many people talk about over all my years here is our name. For indeed, we are named for the Shawnee Mission Indian Manual Labor School, where Indigenous children were separated from their families and their culture. In the last 5 years, there have been little starts to reparations around these parts and about this particular harm. In 2021, the Kansas Reflector stated that the federal government conducted a large-scale drive over nearly a century to assimilate hundreds of thousands of American Indian children by removing them from their families and sending them to faraway boarding schools. A naming of harm. Completely insufficient, but there. And more. It is stated that last month, Holland, the nation's first American Indian cabinet secretary and an enrolled member of the Pueblo of Laguna, offered a federal Indian boarding school initiative to recover the histories of these institutions. In her memo, Holland said that she wants the U.S. investigation to identify the children who attended and their tribal affiliations, along with a particular emphasis on finding records of cemeteries or burial sites connected with the schools that may contain unidentified human remains for federally run reservation schools dot all over the Midwest and West. And now the naming of people, another small movement in the first step of naming harm. And in May of this year, 2023, the officials in Fairway, Kansas announced that they would work with the Shawnee tribe to look into the history of the Shawnee Indian Mission. And that was all I could find. And so let us imagine a second step in this repair, starting to change. What would it mean for us to be able to say, the members of Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church, that we are now another person? We are not the people who perpetrated those misdeeds. For true repentance happens when you come into that situation again and you do something differently. We were reminded that if you haven't done the work, then we will end up in the same situation. I wonder, have we as a nation started to change? In that same situation, would it be any different? Now, the third step is to provide restitution and accept the consequences, which also may be called making amends or reparations. Join with me in wondering what could ever bring the children back. What could ever repair these families, their connection to the land? And what would the land back movement in Kansas really look like? What would it mean for us as a congregation? And could we, a people who are named for this terrible act, truly accept the consequences of restitution? The fourth step is an apology. Who would make it? The government? Would we make one? What have we in this room done? We've named our church, we've held land, and we represent ancestral and generational benefits and harm that we could work with to form an apology, perhaps. Remembering that it's hard to imagine an apology because the apology comes after reparations, which comes after confession. Each of these steps being possibly years of thoughtful, slow relationship building and consideration. So the apology we formulate now isn't really developed. And lastly, what would we do differently now? Well, we couldn't know yet, for the work of repair is learned in the doing. The process is the gold here. There are no easy answers to the great grand complexity of harm that has not been repaired beneath us, around us, and within us. It is through the process that we unearth the wisdom. Is there space for repair in our ministry, in our community, in our families, in you, in me? Can you look around at your own little plot of land, at your own relationships and presence in the world? And can you see that something truly precious has been lost and harmed, and that you have been a part of it in some way? And can you also fall to your knees in gratitude that you and I do have a love inside of us that is courageous enough and powerful enough to do this difficult work? Maybe that limitless love that our universalism is talking about is telling us that we do have a love that is much bigger than we knew, that we are capable of something far beyond what we have ever imagined, that there is a world that is repairable and set on a course that is more just, more whole, not perfect, but one where we make better mistakes. And from this, we honor the world that we know to be beautiful and do our own humanity and the humanity of others justice, putting these big old hearts of ours to a test and seeing that indeed it is big enough to withstand so much, that somehow there's always more room for love and courage in places even we're afraid to look. For there is always a chance to come back into relationship and to repair. There is a love that is big enough for all of us, an unconditional love that is waiting, available for redemption through right action. We are each bestowed with this imperfect and lovable self, and we each have an incredible capacity to love. Let us use this love. Let us work with this heart, this universalism, to do what is right, knowing that repair work has always, is, and will be hard, but it will grow us, and it will make the world we dream of.
The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us in our hearts until we are together again.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our closing hymn, number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. This week, I invite you to be attentive to how you could do repair work in your life. Go in peace.